who is the answer or who is an answer for the San Antonio Spurs.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hopefully everybody's having a good start to their day. And we're going to be discussing some NBA draft talk. Specifically, who could be the answer for the Spurs in the rebuild, or who is just an answer for the Spurs in their restructuring. And thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. As always, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Basketball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your basketball franchise? Then this game is definitely for you. Download the game. Just visit ultimatebasketballgm.com or look it up on the app stores. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On, all caps, in the game. Let's go to bring in our guest. He is my colleague at Kens 5 San Antonio. He's on the TV side. He is Vinny Vinzetta, making his way back here on Locked On Spurs. And the latest intel I have, Vinny, is you are actually rising up in the draft, projected possibly overtaking Wemby. Congratulations, Vinny. Way to go.
I'm going to take that every day. I don't know how that's happening, but I want to take it. Thank you.
How you been?
Gosh, I have seen so much high school basketball the last couple of weeks with the girls and boys state tournaments rolling through the Alamo Dome.
Right.
I'm exhausted from that, but always a fun couple of weeks. And the great state of Texas has some serious talent. So watch out for those Brennan Bears. I know they lost in the boys state semis, but they are so young with freshmen and sophomore. They're going to be here to stay for the next couple of years. I just do believe.
Is it true that I heard that there was actually a rain delay inside the Alamo Dome? Is that true?
That is true. It was, I guess, in the girls' tournament, in the girls' semis, there was a big storm, early spring storm that rolled over right on top of the Alamo Dome, and it got really, really, really loud, Jeff. And we thought, man, that is crazy heavy rain, but it turned out there was a lot of hail moving over the dome in that moment, and it got through some of the air ducts, I guess, and there were actually hail ice pellets that were falling inside along with raindrops into the dome and onto the court. So it was a bizarre scene for a couple of minutes, but they got a bunch of staff out there on the floor and wiped it all up, including the director of the UIL himself. And as soon as it had happened and been a bizarre scene, they had it cleaned up and we were back to basketball. So
that is bizarre. It's like, what is San Antonio and odd things happening in arenas? You have the bat in the AT&T Center, or maybe I think it was in the SBC Center. Then you have the infamous water cannon. Now we got rain in the Alamo Dome. So yeah, fun times in San Antonio at sporting arenas. But make sure to follow Vinny on Twitter at VVinzetta, VVINZETTA. Make sure to do it right now, and I'll go see that footage of the rain in the Alamo Dome. You want to have a good chuckle, but. Vinny, let's get to it here. So we had a fan ask the other day, and I thought it'd be a great topic for today's show with you. Is that the fact that the Spurs, we know, Vinny, they're likely going to land one of the top 3 worst records, likely one of the top 3 picks, hopefully, crossing fingers. But then, you're looking at the obvious, Wembanyama, then Scoot Henderson, the Thompson twins, what about Brandon Miller? So all these names are going there. But somebody asked me, okay, fine, that's good. They're good talents. But are they really the answer for the Spurs in the rebuild, or just an answer for the Spurs rebuild? So why don't we start off with that idea, and let's get rid of the obvious. That's Wembanyama. I don't even know why I'm asking you this, Vinny, but is he the answer for the Spurs, or just an answer for the Spurs in the rebuild?
I guess. I mean, I don't want to say the wrong thing here, but I think he's obviously the answer. Like, is he automatically Tim Duncan cornerstone foundation ready? I'm not going to go entirely that far, but all you have to do is Google some highlights and you see that he is the guy. I mean, he's amazing what he can do as a 7'2", 7'4" stretch that can shoot threes and block shots and step away and turn around and fall away and hit baskets. I mean, I think the just a couple of concerns are things that everybody has obviously read.
Right.
His ability to play post defense and box out defenders with his thin frame. But, I mean, I guess Charles Barkley is now throwing around jokes that Wemby would be great to land in San Antonio because he'll quickly gain some weight. But, that's what Chuck does. But he's as close to the answer as I think we could possibly get.
I've actually had a guest come on a couple of days ago, and he just thinks Wemby is an answer because of what you just said, that he's not going to flip the franchise around overnight, like you mentioned Robinson did, or even LeBron did for the Cavs, or Duncan did for the Spurs. That he's not there yet because, and he compared it with Duncan, because Duncan was a 4-year guy in college, came in already physically built, mentally ready. Robinson, the same thing, military guy. That this is still a teenager likely that's going to be coming to San Antonio. What about the age factor? Do you think that may sway you into maybe shifting from Wemby being the answer to it just an answer?
I'm going to stick with the answer.
Okay, all right.
Just because it's okay to be that young. Like, let me flip it back to you, Jeff. I mean, I think you yourself said that no matter who we land, we're still a couple of 2 or 3 years away.
Right.
If memory serves, you said that. So keeping that part of it in mind, that they're not going to be in the finals next year just because they land him doesn't mean that he's not still the guy that will eventually be that cornerstone to get you to the promised land down the road.
And you look at the current makeup of the team now. Popovich has been making it very clear, Vinny, you know this, that this team may not be looking the same next year. They're evaluating talent, who's going to stick around. So, and we'll get to Scoot in just a few minutes. But as far as Wemby is concerned, if you keep the major pieces around, that's not a bad building blocks to build around Wemby. Keldon at the 3 or the 4, depending on how they're going to use Wemby if the Spurs do get lucky enough. You got Sohan. I mean, talk about a 1-2 punch there, Wemby and Sohan. You got Devin Vassell. So if the Spurs do land the number 1 pick and get Wembanyama, they have the pieces already to build around him, and maybe the collective can turn the franchise around close to what we saw with Robinson and Duncan. Your thoughts, Vinny?
I would agree with that because I would simply say that it wasn't just him. Was he the cornerstone, the big fundamental? Right. Yes, but you have to have those other complement pieces and other pieces to the puzzle, if you will. And I love the guys you just mentioned, Keldon and Sohan and Devin. I mean, those are guys that can play in this league and play at a high level. So those guys all brought together can hopefully make Victor even better than he already looks right now. But I know that when you look at highlights of him, he's bringing up the basketball and playing point guard and doing all of these things inside and out against that talent at that level that he's at right now, and that's going to probably look a little bit different in the NBA. But how can you not look at that guy, Jeff, and say,
I know,
just wow, 5 stars all the way around? And if they can cultivate just some of what they see now into the NBA game, the prospects are phenomenal.
I forgive me for not remembering who wrote this. I think it was ESPN, but they did a report with Wembanyama and his camp and how much they're aware of the big man issues from the legs to the feet, that they are not putting Wemby in some sort of weight training program right now. I'm pretty sure that may change when it comes to the NBA because they're trying to prolong his career. So they're aware of those feet issues from Chet Holmgren to, who else we saw throughout the league, your Greg Odens, who knows, Wemby, hopefully knock on wood, he doesn't go through that, but they're conscious enough. So you put all that together and you got yourself a ready-made player. Now, yes, Vinny, it will take a while. He's not going to take the Spurs to the first round of the playoffs next season. I don't think that'll happen if the Spurs are fortunate enough to get him. But you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm 100%. We got to get rid of him. That's why I have him in the first segment. Wemby, he is the answer for the Spurs in the rebuild. But when we get back, Vinny, we're going to talk about if the Spurs were to land at the 2 spot. And all eyes seemingly, Vinny, are on Scoot Henderson from the G League Ignite. But are things kind of cooling off on his potential in the NBA. We're here with Vinny Vinzetta, my colleague at Ken's 5 San Antonio. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at VVinzetta, VVINZETTA. Do it right now. But I want to talk to you about the Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. I'm really geeked out by our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Pro Basketball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an NBA GM and managing your own basketball franchise? Well, dream no more. It can come true right now. This game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team, play through a season, lead your team to glory. You're responsible for hiring the right coaches, assistants, trading and training players, making draft picks, navigating your franchise through free agency and the draft, all the ups and downs of a season. This is a very challenging but realistic game world. Ultimate Pro Basketball GM is completely free and playable online. Play on the go as you want, when you want to. I already looked at it. It's fun. It's addicting. The other guys at the Locked On NBA side, they're already jumping on it and they are raving about it. Locked On Spurs listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game store. So make sure to go check it out. Download the game. Just visit probasketballgm.com, scan the code, or look it up on the app stores. That's probasketballgm.com. Ultimate Basketball GM. Start your dynasty today. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Vinny Vinzetta. He is with Ken's 5 TV. He's on the sports side, and he's joining me here right now on Locked On Spurs. Vinny, if I was starting a team as a GM, I would pick you as my number one pick. How's that?
I look forward to negotiating a contract.
I bet you will.
Negotiating a contract. I've had a few things that I want to throw in there, so that could be a fun negotiation. So we'll see what happens.
What can you imagine just the numbers they throw out, just like these NBA teams and the dollar amounts they just throw out? That's just ridiculous. If you're that good, that's crazy.
Year after year. I mean,
yeah, I know.
You know, I remember years ago, Andrew Monaco, who used to do some Spurs television, as you remember, he talked about how those guys have a very small window in the crux of their life and their career to get that one big contract for a lot of these guys.
Right.
So there is so much that goes into playing well and performing and being out there, because when it's go time to land your big deal, you got to have all your cards on the table. So it really is a fascinating process.
Yeah, it is. Well, we're talking about the Spurs, the NBA draft, and the chances are likely as of now, unless the Spurs mess it up, quote unquote, to start winning, but they are, in the hunt right now for the top 3 picks. Now, according to Tankathon, Vinny, last check, the Pistons have vaulted at least that website's team to get the number 1 pick, followed by Houston and the Spurs. And Charlotte is coming up strong. They already lost 2 in a row. I never thought I'd be talking about losing streaks as a good thing and a bad thing here on Locked On Spurs. But here we are. So we're going to talk about Scoot Henderson. So is he the answer or an answer? Now, before we hit record for this episode, Vinny, I brought to your attention of a recent report via ESPN's Gavoni that teams are starting to maybe think twice about Scoot at the number 2 spot. Now, why? Because as they say in the sports world, Vinny, you know this, I know the listener knows this, the best ability is availability, and he's not really readily available for G League Ignite. A lot of GMs see that he hasn't really diversified his game. Yeah. So GMs are starting to, at least according to them, are starting to cool off. What are your thoughts, Vinny? Is Scoot the answer for the Spurs at number 2 if they land there, or just an answer?
I'm going to say that Scoot is an answer. And, that's not wonderful news to hear that, he's kind of in that world of the best ability is availability. I mean, that's obviously not going to fly in the NBA. Whoever drafts him will have to reiterate, you are here to play, compete, and you'll do things the right way. But just when I look at his intangibles and his playing ability, great player, really talented player, looks like he can run a show, but I don't see him. He's not the generational talent at all that Wemby would be with the number 1 overall spot. So really, really, really nice guy. I mean, looks like a really solid player, would be wonderful to have at the top of the key, but I see him as an answer nowhere near the answer.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he's an answer, but he's a big answer. I mean, that's
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
gold, like a gold star worthy in grade school. Yeah, that's a good report. Here's your gold star, but you don't get 2 gold stars, but you definitely get a gold star.
You're better. You're better,
Yeah,
no question. You're
yeah,
better. Yeah, that's easy for sure.
yeah. That's easy. He is an answer and a big answer, though. His just what are they feeding these kids nowadays? That's what I want to know. Because whatever they were eating, I wish I had it when I was his age at 19 years old. Because his body looks like it's just ready for the grind of an NBA season. Very durable. He's thick, very muscular. Doesn't look slight or frail. There's Wemby, who looks like a toothpick right now, and then there's Scoot, who looks like he's going to compete against Arnold Schwarzenegger in the next, Mr. Olympia.
Yeah,
So he looks ready. Yeah. Go ahead.
you
I'm sorry.
find the right you find the right strength coach these days, and some of these kids, no matter what the sport is, from golf to the NFL, the NBA, they roll off the assembly line these days. If you got the right people ready to
Jeez.
and
Yeah.
look like a professional.
Yeah, I know. I'm just astonished by Scoot. He definitely is an answer, but a lot of the comparisons right now are to prime Russell Westbrook. That's like the biggest, a very prime, in his heyday, Chicago Bulls, Derrick Rose. Not bad at all. Not bad at all. But I don't think he's that generational type. Vinny, will you be mad? Let's just say, if the Spurs were to pick Scoot at number 2, would that make you flip a table, or you be all right, cool, we're good? Like, how would you react to that?
Yeah, just what you said.
All
Okay,
right.
that's cool. Let's see what we got. I mean, obviously there's some frustration if you don't land Wembanyama, but you know that you have a very talented player who can mix it up and do a lot of things on the basketball court and bring a lot of excitement and enthusiasm and a lot of success. So yeah, you just roll with the punches and see how he
Right.
can grow.
Yeah, and you talk about his fit. Should the Spurs draft Scoot in the team again? As we said in the first segment, we'll say it again. Pop has been saying very loud and clear this team is going to be looking different next year because they're evaluating talent. Now, this is where things get interesting because they have these pieces right now to surround Wemby with good players to complement him. But Scoot is a different beast. You have Trey Jones, you have Blake Wesley, you have Malachi. You have Devontae Graham. Maybe I could definitely see him not be here next season. But the point is, he could really displace some people on the roster right now. Vinny, your thoughts?
There's going to have to be some mad scientist work, clearly,
Yeah.
by and, and Brian Wright and figuring this thing out. Because, yeah, that's a great point you make, Jeff. That room suddenly can be really crowded, or can get really crowded in a hurry. And how does it all work and fit? And yeah, I mean, but you if that guy is in front of you and you land in that 2 spot, then I think you do take that guy, and then you figure it out after that.
Yeah. It's a no brainer again. Not as big as Wimby, but for sure with Scoot, you may take him. But if the reports are coming out that the ability to be available is not as great, that, and I understand why GMs will get shy about that, and especially Spurs fans who are still reeling from Kawhi Leonard, who wasn't available in that final year, who was hurt. You could definitely, that could open up old wounds with the fan base. Like, oh, this guy's not playing again. He's not playing again. You get looking like Zion Williamson. Do you remember him, Vinny? Do you remember that guy? Does he even play in the NBA anymore?
And you don't want that stigma attached to you, and so I can understand the immediate concern by, let's put the fans aside, but the Spurs organization, that's a big concern about where his attitude there, and is he full tilt to be out there and be an Iron Man and play every game. That's a real concern, because once people are talking about that sort of an attitude with you, it sort of tells me that in a way that's who you are. And I don't like that. I like the skill set and the tool
Right.
set, and maybe somebody like a Greg Popovich can change his ways, but it's a concern.
It really is. Yeah, it is. But hey, should the Spurs land at number 2 and pick them, I think majority of Spurs fans wouldn't be upset about it. I think the bigger thing is just the Spurs didn't win the draft. And that would really tick off Spurs fans. But nevertheless, yeah, Scoot at number 2, he will just be an answer, according to myself and Vinny. When we get back, we're going to look at wild cards that who could be the answer or just an answer for the Spurs at the upcoming NBA draft with Vinny Vinzetta of Kens 5 San Antonio on the TV side. But next, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. Look, it's way past the midway point of the NBA season, but it's still the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on everything from the money line to point scores, 2 threes drained. You can even make exclusive bets like 2 times 3, 2 3-pointers in the first 3 minutes. Yeah, you have a lot of fun building your favorite NBA bets for the week. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with same-game parlay. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs with my colleague at Kens 5. He is Vinny Vinzetta. He's on the TV side, holding it down, covering everything in San Antonio sports from high school, basketball. I believe you got the Brahmas too, huh, Vinny?
Well, they're not doing very well, but yes, we got them.
Yeah,
they're finally back at home after 3 weeks of the Alamo Dome being packed up, and they were originally scheduled to kick off at 9:00, which we thought was insane, this Sunday night for their next home game, but that's been moved to 8:00, which I don't think is still much better on a Sunday evening. I'm not sure what kind of crowd they're going to get late Sunday night, but we'll see.
Yeah. By the way, we were talking about in the second segment about the Spurs winning and joking around like, wow, I never thought I'd be upset about the Spurs winning. This is how intense it is right now. So Vinny texted me during the weekend asking me, like, you think they're going to win versus the Nuggets or something like that? And I said, watch them mess up and win against Oklahoma City. Now they didn't, but Vinny starts laughing at me in the text, like, yeah, if they could, I could see them do something like that. So times have changed in San Antonio, haven't they, Vinny?
It's just so weird. I mean, it's been, I've used the term rinse and repeat time and again this year, but it's just also been a season unlike any other that I've ever experienced here. It hadn't made sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, we understand what's going on, but it's just so weird to talk about what has had to happen to get us where we are now. Just so weird.
I know. All right, well, let's look at wild cards now of players who could be the answer or an answer. Now, you got Brandon Miller, and setting aside the off-court issues, the serious ones, if you just look at him as a player, he's intriguing. This guy is intriguing. The comparisons already are prime Paul George. I mean, that's pretty good. That's really good. But I've even heard when available, Kawhi Leonard type player. This is interesting.
Well,
I like he's interesting. Go ahead.
I like him a lot. He just looks out there in between the lines, Jeff. He is so silky smooth. Just has that professional basketball body. He looks the part. He's got the moxie. I just really like him a lot. Everything just looks right to me. And I guess I hadn't heard much about his availability being maybe an issue, but like him a lot. What I see out there, and I would be now that I'm talking with you in the moment. I mean, I would be maybe just as satisfied, if not more, if the Spurs landed him at 2 over Scoot Henderson. Really like Brandon Miller a lot.
Would you be surprised if Miller goes at 2? I don't think I would. I would not at all. Yeah,
I would not be surprised if there were some fireworks on draft night, and it would not shock me. No, not at all. It really wouldn't at all to see him jump up to 2.
Yeah, if the Spurs were to draft him at 2 or 3 or even 4, hopefully the Spurs don't drop too far out of the top 5. Again, a win. But is he the answer or an answer, Vinny?
He's an answer.
Okay.
But he's an answer, Jeff. But when I think about just what I like about Brandon Miller and I envision him with Devin and Keldon and Sohan. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me?
I know.
There's stuff there's stuff to work with there. Holy cow!
I know that. And then you factor this in too, Vinny. The NBA is positionless. Is positionless. I mean, I think he can play. He could definitely play the 3. He could definitely play the 4. You think he can play the 2? I think he can play the 2. I don't know how his shooting is great, but he can score and defend, Vinny. I mean, this guy might be something there. So yeah, he is definitely an answer. Is there anybody else on your draft board that you're leaning to that could be an answer or the answer for the Spurs? I think the only clear the answer is Wemby. So who else is an answer, I guess, on Vinny's draft board?
I guess there's the Thompson kids. You know, the
Yeah.
Amen Thompson.
Yeah.
He's a really good passer, Jeff. You know, I'm not going to put him at LeBron status yet, but he can really pass the basketball and find open shooters from what I've watched. So I like his ability, his court vision, and to see things happen before they actually happen. Really like what I see there from him. So I can see him fitting kind of into, you know, what we've called over the years the beautiful game. So definitely like his prospects to run things, and whether he's in the open court or working at a half court set, love what I see there from that Thompson kid.
Yeah, you know, the draft is deep. There is no doubt about that. You know, I think hopefully the Spurs don't have the worst case scenario and fall out of top 5. By the way, I've been meaning to ask you this. What is your, I guess, basement, if you will, or your floor where you hope the Spurs don't fall out of? Is it top 3 or bust for Vinny? Is it top 5 or bust? Like, how far do you think you're willing to go for the Spurs if the ping pong balls don't fly in their favor for the number 1 pick?
Well, gosh, I hadn't thought too much about that, but I guess
Yeah.
I would hope that they fall no further than 5, for crying out loud. I mean, they've put in all this, I don't want to call it work, but they put in all this all this, whatever you call it, to be, you know, 17-50 as of today. But gosh, I mean, I really hadn't thought much about that, because everything in my mindset and everybody else's seems to be, is it going to be Wembanyama or Scoot or Miller? So just, I think all of our mindsets and our mental games are focused on that top 3. So, I mean, it's funny. It's funny to me, Jeff. I see so many thoughts, whether it be on a Facebook or a Twitter or an Instagram. Everybody in the Spurs world is saying not if, but when we land Wembanyama.
Yeah.
So everybody's convinced and feels like he's the guy. I don't know that I want to caution anybody, but I want to keep saying, remember, the bottom 3 all have the same exact 14% chance.
Yeah.
So, you know, it would be wonderful, but it's not anywhere near guaranteed just yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I get it. You know, the Spurs fans base, you know, they've seen Robinson get number 1 and Duncan get one, kind of lightning strike again for the Spurs. We'll see. We'll definitely see. But that's why they gotta lose to remain in one of the top 3 best chances. Why Vinny's likely to text me again in the next game saying, "You think they're gonna win this?" You know, I'm like, I hope not. I mean, that text exchange is probably gonna happen between Vinny and myself. By the way, Vinny, before I let you go, in the previous episode of Locked On Spurs, we had a very interesting question. Now, I make no bones about it here on Locked On Spurs. I am 1,000 billion% a geek. I'm a nerd. You throw any type of Marvel stuff at me, comic books, you know, Star Wars stuff, I'm all about it. So in the last episode, we had this game called We Enter the Multiverse, where we go into a different timeline, a different world, where this current Spurs season, the roster stayed the same. Pirtle didn't get traded. Josh Richardson didn't get traded. Primo is still on board. And everybody is in relatively great health. If you're in that universe, Vinny, and you're covering the Spurs in that other alternate universe, how well do you think that Spurs team would have done?
Much better than this one. And we're not having the conversation that we just had for the last 30 minutes. They're not vying for a top 3. They're probably finishing somewhere in the middle of the pack, maybe a play-in team, maybe a first-ranked team. And you're like, well, that was a kind of a bummer, whatever it was. And now we don't have great draft spots. So it's much more exciting to be, 100 games under 500 than in the alternate universe.
Right. Yeah. We had the same thing too. We predicted in that alternate universe, the Spurs are likely playing for a play-in spot. which means that Spurs fan base in that multiverse universe is probably flipping tables right now. You're being mediocre again, Spurs. What are you doing? You want to be this team? By the way, another question we had in that in yesterday's episode, opposed to you, if Primo's still on the team, and remember, Primo was they were all about Primo. I mean, it was him, putting him in front with the patch advertising, the self ad, and all this stuff. He's all over Austin, everywhere. What do you think he would be like right now? Like, how much of a leap would he be taken?
I would say a lot.
Yeah.
In the very small sample size that we saw, he was making leaps and bounds. I mean, you just said it, the patch stuff, and he's on the side of a Via bus around the city. I mean, he was the face, and you talk about a remarkable fall from grace. I mean, gosh, that seems like with what this season has turned into and what's transpired and all the talk about draft picks, it seems eons ago that we had a former employee, threatening lawsuits or suing the organization, and Josh Primo ruining his career to this point. I mean, gosh, that was, I know that was so early on, but I think had he been exhibited normal behavior and done things the right way, you would see you'd see a very special kid developing for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he would have been. I think a lot of eyes would be opening right now, like, holy smokes, like, who is this kid? The Spurs did it again. They found the gem and they picked him early. Good on Brian Wright, all that good stuff. But yeah, definitely would have been interesting to see how Primo would have been right now. But if you definitely have the ability to hop multiverses, let us know how that Primo's doing, everybody. We would love to know. We would love to know. Vinny, we're done talking here, but we need to know what's going on in your neck of the woods. We know that you cover all things San Antonio sports, so what's cooking?
I just posted an interview that ran Monday night at 10 o'clock on Twitter. I sat down and had a nice visit with UTSA football head coach Jeff Traylor. He's been very pointed, very open and honest about the current landscape of college football with NIL deals and the transfer portal, and he had a lot of interesting thoughts on that. And about 2/3 of the way through the interview, he talked about how he's alienated every Big 12 football program in the great state of Texas, and you'll hear why he feels that way. So always love visiting with Coach. Again, he's very open and honest with us, and you can find that interview on my Twitter page right now.
Yep, and that Twitter page is Vinzetta. That is VVINZETTA. Go follow him right now. Go check that out. He's covered all things San Antonio sports, from high school basketball to getting rained out in the dome, to UT State basketball, and much, much more. Are you going to be up late for that Brahmas game? You going to go for it? Or you got no choice because they're sending you out there?
I may go out there for a little pregame food, to be honest with you. And now that it's at 8 o'clock, not 9, I may go out and watch a little bit. But it's not been great football, and I think they're 1-3. So I'm 50-50. I'll have to get back to you later in the week and let you know what my decision is. If I get lazy on the couch Sunday evening, it just might get real easy to lay on the couch and not get in the car and drive to the Dome. So I'm not sure.
He is Vinny Vinzetta. Thanks again, Vinny, for hopping on this episode of Locked On Spurs and asking who is the answer or who could be an answer for the Spurs down the road. Hey, check out Locked On Game to Game. Make it that your second listen right here on the Locked On NBA Network. They're covering all things from the box scores to every results to, Vinny, are fights in the NBA just spiking right now? It's like every night somebody's getting in a fight. So go check it out. Locked On Game to Game NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. Same for Locked On Spurs on the Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube, Odyssey, and much, much more. So for Vinny Vinzetta, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.